from their encounters with races from other planets. The information is the activation. Let's awaken this world together. We are the forever students, and we will not be silent. We are the ones that we've been waiting for pretty while. Welcome everybody to Full Spectrum Universe. My name is Rob Yox. We are the embattled broadcast that explores the past to remain in the present, to dictate the terms of our future. Welcome, welcome, welcome everybody. We were going to go live last night, but the internet was being a little wonky with us, so we decided to push the show off to today. Tonight is a genuine, unscripted conversation where we're going to go do a bunch of different angles, but we're also going to have a really, really great conversation. It's going to be off the cuff, off the hip. I'm going to do a little bit of ranting here and there, so be prepared. We're going to have a really great time tonight. Tonight, we're going to talk about what's happening in the state of the world and how we need to protect ourselves as the energetic light bearers of this specific reality and the tools of ascension, and how we need to move ourselves into spaces where the propaganda or the negative forces that are bearing down from every angle are no longer going to afflict us in the same way as it does the rest of the world. We see this happening right now, right? We see the radicalization of both sides of any argument. Could be, we could talk about a million different things, right? A million different subjects. And when we do that, there's always two sides to the story. So what we're going to do is we're going to get ourselves prepared. We're going to take a couple of deep breaths, get into what we need to do to protect ourselves and the energetic spaces. We're also going to give some points of view on some of these topics and what I see coming down the pipeline, basically happening almost intuitively when we look at these subjects. So let's take a moment. Just breathe. Just breathe for a minute, because we're all here. We're relaxed. We're going to have a great time. We're going to bring some joy, a little bit of laughter to tonight. We're going to have a good time. First announcement we want to make is in December, the beginning week of December, I'm going to be doing a event. It is going to be a free event here on YouTube. We're going to line up some speakers. I'm not sure if it's going to be 1 day, 2 day, depending on the speakers that we get. And we're going to have a good time with that. I don't even know what the subject matter is just yet, but the first week of December, we're going to have a small event here. It's going to be free for everybody to come and have a great time, and we're going to share a ton of information. So let's get to it. So before we jump into everything tonight, again, I want to take a moment to kind of take a step back. We look at the 40,000-foot view here, but we're also going to look at the 40-foot view tonight as well. So let's take a moment to do so, right? So we know about there's a lot of war going on across the world. And this is kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation. So these wars are causing the loss of life and the impact on the regions in which they're affecting. So we don't want to get into too much detail, of course, for censorship. So we're going to reference these wars in a way that's not going to be direct, sort of a generalization. But one of the things that we see is that American media and media across the world are propagandizing both sides of these affairs. And when we see this, they get people radicalized. They essentially give us narratives so that we follow a specific script, and it's either you're with us or against us style of propaganda. And this is a divide and conquer tactic. When we're letting this happen to us, and I'm going to speak about myself, right? So the most recent affair that we've seen over where one of the creations of life started, and if we look further below the surface, we see more of the good entities, negative entities kind of going back and forth and vying for position in this specific region of the world because of stargates and energetic centers, right? So we're not going to get there just yet, but I got a little bit caught up in the very, very beginning. I'm not perfect. I'm fallible like everybody else, and I get into emotional battles within myself. So on October 7th, we heard the news of what happens. And this is sort of the reason why I've been kind of waiting to come online too, because I'm correcting my own course as we go through this. It's not just a collective journey; it's also an individual journey. And I wasn't in the right headspace to come in and really comment on a lot of things, but now I am. Right, I've gotten a lot of assist from the ancestors, and essentially meditation is to correct my course and make sure that I'm not jumping in with both feet emotionally before I review and assess all the information, right? So we hear about things that are happening, and they are atrocities, they're barbaric, and it gets us emotionally triggered. And we talked about this a little bit during shadow work. We also talked about this about some of the energetic centers and chakras, these trigger points, right? So for me, the loss of life, especially within a barbaric fashion, is a trigger point. I feel that we're an evolved enough society where we don't need to go about these paths to essentially make things happen. I feel that way about, you know, anywhere in the world, and how there's a separation between government and population, right? And how the governments can be bad actors while the populations suffer. So there's a lot to be said with that as well. But again, I'm going to reference myself because it's something that triggered me. We hear the news of things that are happening, and we get so invested that we look towards the opposition to that party and say, "You're to blame." This is absolutely heinous, and it is, granted. But there's this history that is essentially 1,000 years of this area, that when you get into this emotional space, you sort of deflect or neglect to even look at. And once once I started to absorb some of the information coming out, I had to kind of prepare myself and say, okay, so now I'm going to give myself what's called a 48-hour rule. Anything I hear, I'm going to wait 48 hours until I either react, take it in, or let it kind of work itself out in the grand scheme of things. And at first, I wasn't doing that. So I was becoming more and more emotionally triggered by what I was hearing. And going out onto platforms like Clubhouse and saying, this is pretty bad, and what's happening shouldn't be called for. And then the party that is in power in the region essentially wants a pass for committing the same style of atrocity. And that's not okay either. So what's really happening is the next question. We look at it and we say, what are we really looking at here? And that's absolutely right. Mister just put a comment in the chat, and absolutely right. Right? If we did a show on them, we would have to do it on Rumble. It would be strictly a Rumble show because that would get me taken off platform here super quick. But I digress. I'm looking at this and saying, you know, there's something more under the surface of what we're looking at and what we're seeing, and it's a power play. Now, if we go back into the earlier episodes or some of the Egyptian episodes of this channel, we can see that there are great power centers in this region, whether it's Giza, whether it's in that area within itself that shall not be named during the broadcast because of censorship, but there are power structures of the first peoples, whether they're ancient technologies or ancient ruins that give more of a path to our creation on this planet. And this is a cover up area. This is a place where they don't want people like me or you dwelling to absorb the energies, one, but to also archaeologically dig to see what information comes up out of the ground in these areas. So I went further into research, and then I was like, I feel like the United States had a hand in this. And we did, right? This provocation that's happening right now is the negative entities that run the United States right now are out there, and they're playing war games with countries. They're inflexing certain funds to certain groups across the world, and they're literally funding both sides of the affair, which we could see this happening through the banking systems for eons, from World War II to Vietnam, all the wars that you could think of, right? There are people behind the scenes pulling strings. Then I started to create a connection to the secret covenant that we talked about the other night. And I said, this is what they talk about when they stop the paths of ascension. So if we go even deeper into what we're looking at here, they're creating these conflicts to stop the human race from ascending to where we belong in the hierarchy of the universe by doing deeds of barbarism, but also of the killing of each other, right? Remember what one of those amendments said during the secret covenant: we will make them kill each other. They will bleed on each other, which will create essentially their children to hate each other, which will create conflict, which will keep our eyes focused on each other and not them. This is what they do. This is their game. This is how they play it. So, thinking about all that, now I'm taking a step back and saying, you know, I don't know what to think now. Like, I'm kind of in the up and in the air on the whole situation in itself. But there are people out there propagating, well, if you're not on one side, then you're on the other. And if you're not on that side, then you're on the other. Well, no, no. I don't trust American media. I don't trust media, period. And I don't trust the people in power telling me what's actually happening, right? I would rather do my own research and have independent sources sort of feed me the information that I can disseminate, and then again, go across it and see what makes sense and what doesn't, right? But it also has something to do with the Abrahamic religions. There has been a push to make it two Abrahamic religions instead of three. And we know that these religions have done a lot to coerce people into certain avenues to make them act in specific ways. So there's a lot going on there. And it's wild to think about how two wrongs don't make a right, but we're allowed to look we're supposed to look the other way while one commits atrocities but the other one doesn't, right? I mean, dramatic pause time. It's like, well, nobody should be committing those atrocities, right? Really, at all. And civilized countries shouldn't be doing this. So, what do we do, right? The next step that came to my mind is, what do I do? Protect myself. How do I protect myself from it's exactly right, Christy. It's exactly right. It can be just as bad as organized crime sometimes. And it's true. This is one of the reasons why I tell everybody to create your own connection with your higher power, whatever that is, right? Don't don't follow a specific narrative by some specific organization, because you never know what you're going to get with that. It could be something that's important, it could not be important. You could be essentially cutting that connection off, which is terrible. So how do we protect ourselves, right? What do we do? Well, first, we need to meditate, right? First thing on you need to get your vibration up. Why? Because when we get our vibration to the point of optimal resistance to these propagandists, what we can do is that all of this information is basically deflected. And the affairs across the world are not going to impede on your ascension. And it's absolutely right too, right? We got to stop putting our heads into these boxes that tell us how to think. This is not where we are as enlightened peoples anymore. This is not where we want to be. These narratives are meant to create fear, because what comes next, right? What's the next step after them saying that these atrocities have happened? Well, we need to get involved. And once we need to get involved, here's this chain of events: what country's backing who, and here we go into World War III. And this is a tipping point. And I'm going to tell you why this is a tipping point, because people are getting so absorbed into the sides of this conflict that they're picking a side, and then they're going to stand resolute in that side when they should be standing for the resolution of a free and fair human experience. They'll be so willing to throw stones while not doing their own inventory and clearing out their own house. And this is where we get into this problem where us getting away from our spiritual paths will put us in positions to be physically, spiritually, and emotionally harmed. It becomes sinister. Also, because we've been pushing back against these narratives and these elites for so long now, for these powers that be, that they're looking at these last vestiges to create these lower vibrational instances to pull us back in, to pull us back in. And what's going on, everybody? I didn't say hi to everybody. Jim, Ronnie, Sugar Bee Rocks, Todd. There's more up top. Christy, Oric, Rockers. There's more missing up top. Mister, Nina, Alexandra, the Andromedan, Caroline, Dennis. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome. So this is I'm gonna put this together with something that we've been witnessing as well, and it's going to be the next segment of the show that we're going to go into. Grace, good to see you. So basically, legit, good to see you. Sound off in the chat, everybody. See, that's exactly right. Exactly right, Alexandria. Problem, reaction, solution. Divide and conquer. This is what they're trying to do. They're essentially trying to get us caught up in this whirlwind so that we digress back to a lower frequency. And if we remember that Stephen and Evan Strong talked about the great split. Now, the two timelines are branching further and further from each other. So, what does that mean? That means that there's still a chance for us to get sucked back to the wrong timeline because there's still threads of connection. And they're using the fear to lower our vibration to basically take us out of the space that we've worked so hard on for the last, however many years you've been doing this, to stay on that fast flowing river. And we're actually seeing this in real time. You're going to say to yourself, what? We're seeing people disappear on camera in real time. This is happening all over the world. What does this mean? What does this mean? Are they going to the higher frequency? Are they going to the lower frequency timeline? Are they getting sucked to an entirely different timeline? Are they being extracted from this experiment that we know is reality? Right? Or is it the rapture that they talk about in some of the ancient religions? Is this the rapture? These people are being raptured, right? They're being raptured from existence. Now, I believe there's something more sinister going on with these people. And here's what I believe, right? And this is just me ranting. I believe that they're creating temporal disorders or distress points where they're pulling these people out and then they're going to bring them back in. But what comes back in is not going to be the same person. This isn't a walk in moment. This is a negative moment. This is a way for them to get some more of their soldiers on the ground. So when we see these people disappear, they're essentially being brought to a temporal zone where they're being detached from the consciousness is being detached from the physical vessel, and the physical vessel is bringing back a dark entity, which is why we're seeing this happen more and more. They're using constructs from outside of time and space to infiltrate this timeline because they've asked the negative people at the top have asked for help because they're losing so bad. So bad that they're losing that now what are they doing? They're calling in the Wessa type entities from outside of our solar system, from outside of our time and space, or maybe it's the Asuras and the Asuras from the void, and bringing them back in because they need these big guns. But here's the crazy part about all of that. No matter what they've done, and I'm going to say this so clear, no matter who they bring, they're already done for. These entities cannot last in this vibrational frequency when people like us are standing as the pillars of light. There is no fear here. Bring your best, I suggest, to the elites, because there is nothing that you can do to stop what is coming. There's nothing you can do. And I know you're watching right now, and I'm talking right to you, to those people who think that they're going to afflict humanity with the negativity and the fear. You hold no power here, sir, or ma'am, whatever you are. I'm telling you that. I'm looking directly into the camera and talking to you. We will not allow you here. We create this reality. You do not. You are an innocent, or not innocent, you are a bystander in this 3D reality, which we hold the levers of power in. So let's just put that out there completely, right? But again, I saw these two things, and I brought this up to somebody the other day. They're like, how can you think that these are related? And I said, brother, it's all connected. Like New York Telephone, it's all connected, right? This is a multi-layer attack that they know they've lost already. That's it. It's over, right? So we see things happening out there on our planet. And what exactly is the end all be all to these implications of war? These are the last vestiges of two of these groups, of these elite factions, vying for the crumbs that are going to be left when humanity puts them in their place. So, looking at it in that sense means it holds no bearing on the ascension timeline or the ascended ones, the light bearers. We're still here to do our work, right? Rocker said it good. That's good. They're coming here and not bringing the whiskey either. They gotta go. But so all of the people who are around you engaging in this fear-based mentality, tell them this is a movie, right? And I'm going to tell you exactly the timeline. This is a movie, right? And in the first season, we get to meet the main character, ourselves, right? We get to meet ourselves, get to know ourselves. So, what happens in the second season of every series? The bad guys essentially get a position of power, or they become a great duel between the main character and a bad guy. And what's season three, right? Season three is where the main character has lost everything around him and rebuilding back to that prominent state. And this is the cyclistic nature that we go through because during ascension, we hit levels, right? So we become awake. And when we become awake, it's a whole new set of ground rules for us to go even further into the ascension. So it's almost like starting from, one, two, three, or four, all the way back up to 10. And then we see the entities on the opposition for what they are, and we take a couple steps back to move 50 steps forward. And this is where we're at right now, right? And every entity that is being born into this timeline, into this moment, is an ascended one, right? An indigo child, a light child, a rainbow child. They're all there. They're all there. They're the great heroes of yesteryear that are coming back to show us that we're here for the long haul. and nothing they can do, say, or will ever happen will take us off this path now. We've we've garnered enough of the population to see what we're saying, so things are coming to fruition. That's another reason why in another week or two, I was messaged from somebody that they wanted to do a moment of meditation for peace on earth and to send vibrations to everybody that we don't need to wage these wars or be in these moments and these crazy times, right? So I think we're gonna jump in on that, or we're gonna create a world meditation on our own, right? We're gonna send shockwaves through the Schumann, and we're going to resonate this high frequency to lift these negative entities off their asses and send them straight into the ether, right? That's what we're going to do. We're going to set it up, right? I'm going to be a lot more involved. And that's another thing I wanted to discuss tonight is my absence over the last few weeks, too. And there was a lot that I've been working through internally. And there are certain moments in time and struggles that within this ascension process that we have to sort of ground ourselves and come to grips with our reality around us and see it for what it is, but also see what we can do to change that. And with the workload that I've had and essentially doing the show a lot, there was a lot of burnout happening. And I don't want to lose the effort. I don't want to lose myself in all of the work that we put forward. I don't want to, I had to take a moment and step back for a little while and gather my resources, gather myself, because I felt that I was wearing myself too thin. And in those moments, I wasn't giving everybody here the full totality of my being. And that's what I want to do. I want to be able to sit here and give you the energies that you need to get through the week to help exude positive moments and joy and emphasis on everything so that we can deliver the rest of humanity in that moment. And that's sort of why I had to kind of take a step back and just rest, because we're coming up on 200 episodes of this channel. We've been doing this for 3 years straight, and it's a lot of work that goes into a lot of the episodes too. Sometimes 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, and I'm willing to do all of it, right? And I just want to make sure that I'm doing it properly. There's a great responsibility that comes with being on the soapbox. And I want to make sure that I'm not squandering that responsibility and that I'm radiating, enough of myself and enough unconditional love so to be the change that I want to see. So that's part of it. But and don't worry, I'm not gonna burn out anytime soon. This last few weeks of only doing 1 episode a week and, kind of gathering myself has done a lot to see the trajectory of where we wanna go, right? And also, I was trying to get a website together. I can't tell you how ridiculous it is to try and do something different. Everything's been done, and the unveiling of a website is going to be crazy. So I may just drop a website with a landing page and a page where you can watch what we're doing here. Also, we're going to start doing more on Rumble because there's things that I want to say that can't be said here, right? We're going to cut some of the shows down to 40 minutes, half hour, 40 minutes when need be, just to make sure that we're not going to full hour and saying things that aren't necessary as well. Keeping ourselves in the groove, to keeping ourselves energized. And that's also part of protecting yourself. You've got to know when to say, okay, it's time for me to take a step back now, right? Drink your water, right? That's what I'm doing. I'm doing it on camera to be an example. We have to drink our water. There's a lot ahead of us because we've reached this point now We're awakening the people that need to be awakened, but we also have to work on solutions. Things haven't been working out the way that they should be, right? We all see that. We all see it. So we need to come up with solutions, setting ourselves apart from the there's a lot of ways to say it, right? From the routines that they hold in the regular 9 to 5 worlds between economy, society, cultural. We have to make our likeness and make it more about us and the ability to ascend and the information, right? So somebody says tell people what awakening means. There's so many different examples of what an awakening is, right? There is a moment in time. I'm going to do my best here. Let me take a second, think about this, and put the words properly. So there's a moment in time where you feel that everything that's happening your relative field of vision, within your field of thought, within your field of righteousness, something's not right or something is off. Usually, this is brought about by some sort of information, by some sort of feeling, by some sort of intuitive nature. And people, an awakening to people can mean a couple different things, right? It could be coming into this cache of information that essentially opens the entire world, blows it wide open for you. It could also mean that now you're beginning to feel energies that you didn't feel before or weren't even cognizant existed before. So that's part of an awakening. But it's essentially putting yourself in a position to go into yourself and to understand the beginnings of who, what, and how you are. Plain and simple. And it can take you in many different levels, right? It can take you to many different levels, and it can make you go back through your entire timeline and essentially be like, whoa, okay, that hits different now, right? I know, I know. Omar has to go there for good. I know it's crazy. It's crazy what they did to him. It's not even like he did anything super wrong either, right? Just bringing information to people. It's just wild how things get misconstrued. And there's nothing that he did that was wrong. Everything that he said is right on, right? But the point is it's they don't want you to know. And they can't stop us from telling the truth, no matter what. No matter what. Because if this doesn't work, we'll find another way. And that's what Omar's doing right now. So I suggest everybody go over to his Rumble account and subscribe. Because no matter what happens, we will always be conveyors of what we believe to be the unfiltered and unabated truth. There's nothing that can stop that. We were set on this course by our elders, our ancestors. They've told us via real world conversation, but also through metaphysical means, signs, information being downloaded, that we need to do whatever it takes to do our spiritual purpose. And this is our spiritual purpose. It's why we take this so seriously. It's why we do what we do. Well, it's why we try and be the best versions of ourselves all the time, right? So there's a lot to be said with that, and he's going to keep his fight going, and I stand behind him 130,000% because we are brothers, and we will always be brothers no matter what. And it's been a long time we've been together doing these things, and he's one of the people that got me into a lot of different fields of research. So we are one and the same, and our shows show you as much. Sometimes I'll do the 40,000 foot view with a 40-foot view, And when I'm doing the 40-foot view, he'll do the 40,000-foot view and vice versa, right? So our information piggybacks off each other and we challenge each other, which is one of the best things. We keep each other sharp. And that's what it's all about too. But so there's a lot going on out there. Protect yourself, whatever that means to you, right? You need crystals to do it. You need meditation to do it. You need to do Reiki healing to do it. There's so many different avenues for protection. Find what works for you. And that's the end all be all of tonight's message. Master your abilities. That's right, Jim. Absolutely. We all have abilities, and some people excel in other places where other people don't. That's okay. That's okay. That's why we were all set here together because we're all going to be pillars in some way, shape, or form. So with all that being said, again, this is another short one tonight. I just wanted to make sure that we're touching base and we're getting things together. We're helping each other out. Do some meditation tonight. Take a moment. Think about who's there. Think about what's going on around you. And don't get caught up in the hype, right? Don't get caught up in the sweeping information that's coming at you. Give it 48 hours. See how it pans out. So, with all that being said, I love you all so very much. Thank you all for being here. And I'll see you guys in the next couple of days. Please like, share, subscribe if you haven't, and please leave a comment when this goes off. We're going to try and get this out there to everybody that wants to hear it. So, I love you all. I hope you all have a great evening. We'll see you next time.